I'd like to welcome our special guest for today's episode, Dr. Stanzie Langtree. With a diverse range of talents and expertise, Dr. Stanzie is an international speaker, energetic healer, musician, and doctor. Beginning her journey as a doctor of chiropractic medicine, Dr. Stanzie founded the Langtree Studio in Portland, Oregon, where she integrated chiropractic, yoga, sports medicine to provide a holistic approach to healing. Through her private practice, she discovered her gift of channeling energy for healing and transformation, leading to the creation of the globally renowned energetic alignment experience. Today, Dr. Stanzie leads seminars, retreats, and speaks at personal growth and business events, sharing her wisdom on abundance, spirituality, wellness, and personal development. With her passion for inspiring and empowering others, she continues to make a profound impact on the lives of people that she touches. So I'm really excited to have you here with us today, Stanzie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be here.
So you've got a very interesting background. You've switched careers in very different directions. Well, actually, not so much because they're both a lot around healing, right? One just more clinical and then the other energetic. So maybe talk us through, how did this transformation happen? How did you go from practicing medicine into energy healing?
Yeah, for sure. So originally, like you said, I'm a chiropractor. And so I had my own practice and I went to, I also had a master's in sports medicine. So I was very into the scientific way of working with people. Chiropractic is a little more alternative than like mainstream medicine, but we have like plenty of studies and all of these things to prove why we did the things that we did. So I was really scientific and it was, funny that now I'm on this path of energy healing, but I was going through my own healing journey. I was doing a lot of work on myself. I realized that I had a lot of traumas from my childhood that were creating challenges in my relationships, and I wanted to shift that. So in my own healing journey, I had multiple awakening experiences, and it was this profound time of my life where I was going into my practice, working with my patients, and I was starting to have these visions of how to work with people energetically. And initially I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what to think about all of that. And eventually I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I started to work with people that were open to it, using energy as well. And people were starting to have these like awakening experiences and spontaneous healings and emotional releases on my chiropractic tables in my office. So I started to develop the work that I do now, the energetic alignment, and created this modality to help people heal, not just physically, but their emotions, and to reconnect to themselves on a much deeper level, and ultimately so they can live their best life.
The minute that we think about mental health or emotional well-being, resilience, we straight away think about therapy, and therapy in the form of clinical therapy.
Yeah.
But there is science behind energy healing, right? That's still science. How would you explain that from a scientific perspective?
Yeah. Well, I know there's not like tons of research because most of our research comes from like the pharmaceuticals, and they're wanting to prove, right, that their medications are going to be working. But
Yes.
there's definitely studies out there that show, especially like with meditation and mindfulness,
Mhm.
that we can get the body to drop into a more relaxed state or different brainwave states that allow for the body to heal. So during, let's say, sound healing, which is a part of what I do in my work,
Mhm.
people can drop into the theta and delta brainwave states. And when you do that, your body goes into this deep, deeply relaxing state, but also self-healing. And so they say in sound healing that if you can get someone to drop into that deep state just for 1 hour, that's equivalent to getting like 4 hours of rest. So, um, so there's, when we look at how the brain is operating and the different brainwave states, and the fight or flight mechanisms that can take place, we can start to see that healing modalities, especially and mindfulness, healing and mindfulness modalities can help the body to drop into more of a state of ease, deep relaxation, and also self-healing, self-repair modes. And then we don't need to utilize, all of these medications and band-aids, right? When the body can actually heal itself and fix itself when we get
Yeah,
into those deeper states.
because my personal experience also suggests that you're right, Stancy, like a lot of that, it's like a band-aid. It's like they have numbing effects. Whatever
Mhm.
is external, right, has this numbing effect, but it's almost like we never get to the core of the issue. So the patterns keep repeating themselves and they keep coming up in our life over and over again, and
Yeah.
just creating further frustration. And then, in fact, more emotions of anger, stress, and angst, because we've never really worked on the core of those, the trauma or the issue that we're challenged by. My question at this point is then, I've heard a lot around emotions getting locked in the body. What's your
Mhm.
sort of experience around that? How do emotions get locked in our body and then, sort of come up as pain or tension?
Yeah. Yeah. So I talk about this a lot in my programs, but our emotions get trapped when we don't express them. Okay. So emotions are energy in motion, and typically emotions only last a few seconds to a minute when we fully express them. But we are raised, or most people are, not everyone, but most people are raised in cultures or families that they're not allowed to safely express their emotions. And I think most people can relate to that feeling of, maybe you're out in public and you feel like you need to cry, but you have to hold it back because you don't want people to see you crying. And there's this like compression in your body. Like you actually feel a tension in your body as you're trying to hold those emotions in. That is exactly what happens when the emotion gets blocked. We're compressing, we're tensioning in the body, the emotion gets stuck. And so I found actually in my chiropractic practice that most of the emotions were stuck in the muscular tension. And so I'd have people come to me saying, "Oh, I've had back pain for 10, 20 years. Nothing's worked." And as I started to work with them in these alternative ways, um, I would have them connect to the back pain and the feelings that were there, and they'd have this emotional release. And all of a sudden, the back pain's miraculously gone.
Wow.
So, yeah. And that happens over and over again. So, the emotions, we are unfortunately conditioned to not really express them fully, or
Mhm.
we don't have safe places to do that. And a lot of the children that are growing up right now, I hear a lot of parents say, use your words, and they don't want their children to express their emotions. But children are developing their emotions up until about 7 years old, and a little bit earlier than that. And parents are saying, they don't want their children to express, they want them to use their words, and they're actually cutting them off from learning how to even feel and express emotions from an early age. So that energy gets blocked in the body and it just stays there. And it creates a lot of anxiety and depression for people. So usually anxiety comes from your mind trying to figure out what's going on, trying to figure out how to numb out, how to deal with these feelings that are inside that people don't know what those feelings are. They're not able to feel them and connect with them. So the mind is going crazy. And that's why the anxiety is happening so often. And I've worked with people who have had literally like who have panic attacks every day, and were like so bogged down by panic attacks. And then I would help them to I actually think of a specific person. She would have panic attacks like every day of the week, and I helped her to connect with the feelings in her body. And she started to release, connect and feel the emotions and release these emotions way from her childhood. And now she never has panic attacks at all. So it's like a lot of the challenges we're experiencing, whether it's mental health or physical health or life challenges, all stemming back to these stuck emotions and energies that are in the body. So,
Stancy, what advice would you give to someone who's tried talk therapy
mm,
for a long time, like years and years of talk therapy, and it's not giving them progress? Like it's just not helping their situation, because potentially the talk therapy is, a retelling of stories, and it's just talking through those experiences, but never connecting with emotions. So if someone's really starting out on this journey, and it might be time for them to really start to connect internally with themselves, what is the most safest and secure way for them to do this, potentially on their own first, before they even reach out to an expert in this area?
Yeah. So the thing with talk therapy is that, like you said, you're just talking over and over about the problems, but not feeling the emotions. So the pattern persists. And, I think that talk therapy is, it has a place that it can help people when they're in a rough time. It can be a nice support. But if they're in therapy for years and years, or even months, and there's no results, then it's because they're not addressing the deeper, issues there, whether it's, the stuck emotions or traumas or patterns that are literally wired in from childhood that are still playing out and wreaking havoc on people's lives. So starting out, it's good to have um it's good to have support people, it's good to have, whether it's a healer or, therapists that work with different modalities as well, to um start that journey of going inward, feeling and healing. You don't necessarily want to do that alone in the beginning, like
Okay.
you can start doing meditation, you can start um doing healthy practices by yourself, but having, a support system in place is important. And so having a lot of tools, right? Lots of tools, whether, the meditations, the healer, the, different tools that we have for health and well-being. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the beginning, like you have all this stuff underneath the radar that you don't even know is there. Like, something's not right. Life isn't going the way you want it. You've got anxiety, depression, or you feel like shit, but you don't really know why, because you haven't developed enough awareness to be able to get to the root of it. And that's why in the beginning it's really important to have, a support structure in place.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so having that mentor or healer, teacher,
Mhm.
whatever that person is in your life is fantastic. And I think just leaning back on my own experience, but then it's really stopping, isn't it? It's like stopping, pausing through the day,
Mhm.
and becoming acutely aware, because it is the
Yeah.
journey of awareness, and that awareness starts from everything that we're doing
Yeah.
mindfully through the day. So it's really that combination. You're absolutely right. I think that having someone who's experienced that, who's an expert and has been on that journey, and they understand the ups and downs of that self-discovery process,
Mhm.
because a lot of things come up in that journey.
Yeah.
And so being
Yeah.
able to kind of, I guess, unpack that with someone else who has that expertise is great.
Yeah.
And then in that personal space as well, just becoming very aware and really stopping. I found that was one of the most challenging things for me as a person who was, a player, wanting to always excel at what I was doing, was like, there was never a moment of stopping. I had to bring that intention and practice into my
Mhm.
day-to-day life. It's like, okay, stop, even write it in my notebook, pause, at the
Mhm.
beginning of the day and then through the day. Uh,
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned the modalities. I want to understand, there's breath work, there's meditation, there's the movement.
Mhm.
So is it a combination of all of that, or can you kind of just do one and kind of just do that and that's helpful enough? How does it all work and come together?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because, meditation by itself is very useful and effective. Um, but you'll hear people often say, "Oh, I've been meditating 10 years and I'm still, not getting a lot of results," or, they're wanting like a spiritual awakening, but, they've been meditating religiously forever and not much has come from that. I think so like by itself it's still useful. But what I've found in my journey is that when we there are a few different things that help us to heal faster and help us to move our energy faster. And like you had mentioned, breath is really useful. So right now it's quite popular breath work. It's there's a lot of different approaches to breath work out there right now, but the breath, there's different ways that you can breathe, and they help you to connect to your body and to different states of consciousness depending on the way that you're breathing. So that's an amazing tool. And I've started to use more breath work with the energetic work that I do, because I find it helps people to connect more into their bodies faster. Primarily when I started, moving away from chiropractic, I was just doing energetic healing, and I was able to get really great results just by channeling energy. But I found that some people need that extra help to get into their body. So breath work is really great for that. And then I discovered sound healing. And so, like I mentioned briefly, sound can be utilized to help us drop into different brainwave states. So I find that the sound healing is really great, especially for integrating the shifts that have happened in the alignment session. So people have some like emotional releases, they'll start moving energy through their body, and the sound will help them to integrate all of that so that they're able to really the body can integrate it, self-heal, and then they can bring it into their lives more effectively. So sound, breath, movement, right? So when we're working with releasing emotions or traumas, the body will start to unwind the pattern. And so when someone allows their body to move through a healing process, it starts to unwind and rewire from the trauma and the stuck energy into the new, more aligned pattern. So a lot of people have movements, and I encourage that. So basically, just go back to emotions. We express emotions through 4 ways: feeling, right? Sensation, through making sound, movement, and breath, right? So if you think about when you're laughing, you're feeling something is funny. When you're laughing, you're making sound, ha, ha, ha. When you're laughing, you're breathing, of course, and then you're moving, ha, ha, ha. So what I've found is that we can use those components in healing to make it more effective, to get the releases that need to happen. So that's why in the energetic alignment, we are doing a lot of breath. We're moving, we're feeling what's there, we're breathing, we're making sounds as well. I encourage people to make sounds. So that's a big component as well.
If I just summarize what we've all spoken about, it's like we learn these things from early on, because we're always told to, shut up, quieten down, sit still. So we're always, asked to tone it down. And I think that toning it down constantly through life, by the time we're adults, we're so uptight and constrained and not expressive. So I do see the benefit of sometimes going into these, sessions and making an intention through that whole 1 hour. You're almost expressing yourself. I mean, they don't need to be an hour, but however long that session is that you're dedicating that time to simply express and unlock all of that tension that we're holding in our body. What a nice way to combine that with anything else, right? That helps us on our journey of mental health. Could be talk therapy, nature walks, or whatever it is else that helps us to reduce the stress and anxiety in our life.
Yeah. And I feel like from working with people's bodies as a chiropractor, people's spines get so hard, like they're like concrete. I mean, they hardly can move. And it's like we have to relearn how to move our bodies, how to express, how to feel. Sometimes I will do sessions with people, and it'll take a few sessions just for the person, just to get the person to feel what their body feels like. Like that's how disconnected we've all become in our conditioning. But the funny contrast is, like, I have one of my best friends is a professional, like, contemporary dancer. And whenever I would work on her spine was always so mobile and like so wonderful, because she is expressing, through an art form on a daily basis. So she didn't have to shut down that part of herself, but most people have. So
Yeah. What's fascinating is that we're 75% water. So, you'd think that we would be more naturally inclined to flow, not be so restricted, right? In our
That's so
movement.
true.
In our movement.
Yeah.
Stanzie, there's so much we could talk about, and I
Yeah.
heard you throw in the word consciousness when you were talking. So I think it's going to take another session for us to come together, because consciousness is just another whole, world of that we open ourselves up to when we do this type of healing.
Yeah.
But for today, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. I also want to thank our listeners for joining us on this episode of the Inside Story podcast. We hope that today's episode has provided valuable insights, strategies, and inspiration to enhance our personal and professional life. Taking control of our physical, emotional, and mental health is truly a journey in this noisy world, and it requires true intention and practice. So I hope you stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we will continue to explore together how we can create a community that is more centered on leading purposeful life and work. Up until next time, take care and keep thriving.